she ordered a
Rolling
5 by
over
7.
there.
Yeah, and I like the picture I had better than that one.
I like the other one. We're gonna have
The one
Hey,
that I
Jess,
have right
why
in
don't
my
you take
thing.
that into the
Yeah,
kitchen
you
and
can't
play
play
with
in
it,
this room,
okay? 'Cause
Jesse.
we're gonna tape.
Okay, it has to be quiet.
Come on, kids.
Hannah, you want to go with Aunt Liz too?
Come on, Hannah.
Liz wants to be here too.
Well, no, she said she wanted to leave.
Come on.
Oh, Daddy Cows!
No, that's if he's noisy, isn't that gonna get in the tape?
Yeah, Jess,
Pick it up.
can you talk to him and tell him?
We'll get.
Jess.
We have a soccer ball downstairs too.
You can't play in the house, Jess. You have to go on the porch or up in Aunt Liz's bedroom because we got to keep the noise down because we're into.
Go in
You
the
want to help
kitchen,
me
Jesse.
clean up, Jess? Want to play with that while I'm upstairs doing stuff?
Why?
Aren't you glad I found that? Brought it out?
Yeah,
Yeah. Come on
I
upstairs.
a dreidel. Let it stay.
The dreidel, dreidel, dreidel. I made it out of PVC. And when it's lots and noisy, I play it on TV. Hey, Mort, go out wide.
It's like a thunderstorm.
Honey, can you can it? Go play with Daddy. Maybe Daddy can take you out for a walk, Hannah.
I was laughing at the noise from upstairs.
Still get it?
Babe, you can't do a lot of stuff upstairs, Peanut. What you do in the basement or outside?
Why don't you go to Bethesda?
The dreidel is not a good idea.
Do you have a rubber-coated dreidel?
Oh,
That's my
God.
favorite dreidel. It's a great dreidel.
Oh my goodness, I can't believe I pulled that out. Right.
We can begin.
Can we go?
Sure. Little texture's okay.
Yeah,
What? Yeah.
background
okay.
noise is all right.
You have questions? Oh my God, you have questions.
No, I don't. These are my legal research I need Liz to do for me.
All right, let's go. Cause we're on that. What time is it, Helen? So we can watch the clock.
Don't worry about the clock.
Almost
Just
10
Okay.
after
Oh,
11.
yeah, we have an airplane today.
No, I know. We have plenty of time because we have to leave at 1.
Okay, let's roll it.
We will.
we're rolling.
Oh, we are rolling. Hi, Mort.
Hi,
Hi, Pops. Do you have a first question?
Why don't you tell us where we are and what what
where
day
we
it is?
are?
Yeah. Well,
Why
just
do we have to do that?
so we get it on tape.
People watching this 50 years from now, Mort, aren't going to know where you are.
But I don't know where we are.
Bethesda.
That's
At whose house?
at Wade and Liz's house.
Let's see, it's the 4th of January, 1998.
Right.
About 65 degrees outside.
God, it's beautiful.
You know why? El Nino.
Are you sure of that?
No, I'm not.
Neither are the scientists.
But everyone blames everything on the El Nino.
So Mort, tell us about yourself.
No, that's not a good way to begin.
You can start
I
with what you
think
had for breakfast.
that if Janet wants some questions,
I have. Okay.
let her go with that.
My first question. What was your most memorable experience in World War II?
I think the two things. One, being forced to fly the butcher of, well, I think it was Czechoslovakia, as a passenger on a plane that we normally flew wounded.
The butcher of who?
Well, I think it was called the, I can't remember now whether it was the Butcher of Czechoslovakia or anything, but anyways, we picked him up in Reykjavik, Iceland, and had to fly him to the States. One man with guards, and that was a very upsetting experience for me. because we had been flying wounded from Europe through Iceland and so forth and so on, Greenland.
So this guy's a Nazi?
Oh, yeah.
And the butcher, was he like that Dr. Mengele or something?
Yeah, they call him the Butcher, and I can't remember the name of it. Not the Butcher of Prague, but something similar to that. And the other one was flying troops, young kids, over to the Battle of the Bulge, and 2 weeks later, recognizing some of them as wounded and flying them back to the States.
2 weeks later.
Yeah, within 2 weeks, when they were just raw troops.
Why did they bring that guy from Czechoslovakia to the United States?
Well, he was a prisoner.
Oh, you said they.
Next question.
Remember you told me about the, wasn't there one time on your locker, there was some anti-Semitic thing they did in the army?
When I was in Hondo, Texas, they printed something in. There was a plane in the Philippines that went down during the Japanese invasion, and the pilot was, Gentile and so forth. And they put an article on my locker on that, and also on some Jewish person in New York who was arrested for we had restrictions on gas and all that kind of
Rationing.
stuff. Rationing and so forth. And that was an experience in Texas that I had. What they didn't know, and what I found out a little bit later, is the navigator on that plane that went down in the Philippines, it was a B-17, I think, was Jewish. That's interesting.
So,
So that was they had put in that thing about the first plane that went down with all these non-Jewish people theoretically, and next to it was this guy that was arrested in New York.
For violating the
Violating
rationing.
but what was the point they were trying to make? I don't quite get it.
The Jew, you can't get it?
The bomber, they were all heroes.
They were heroes going on the bomber that went
They lost
down.
their lives.
And here a Jewish person
Right.
in New York is arrested for rationing or whatever the thing was.
But the navigator was Jewish.
No, the bombardier,
What-
I
what
found
Jew?
out later, the bombardier was Jewish, that went down with that plane.
So how did you feel when you found that stuff on the locker?
Well, I had, I realized that there was a lot of anti-Semitism at that time in that area, in the South, period.
Right.
Because I had a very other interesting experience when I went to Nashville, Tennessee, and I took a cab back to the air base, and the driver said they all send all the blacks back to Africa and all the Jews back to Palestine, that kind of thing. So there was a lot of anti-Semitism.
Do you think that's why you were singled out from your group and didn't get into the program that you were training
Oh,
for?
no, that had nothing to do with it. Absolutely.
But you never knew why you didn't get into that group.
To this day, I
What was the program you were training for?
There was a program that they decided to eliminate one crew member flying the hump from India into China.
Yeah.
And they were training that they would have a co-pilot navigator combination and eliminating one crew member, which was very important in those days. And all that group that was training, and we were trained in Kansas City by TWA, I'm the only one that never went to the hump. And I have no idea why.
You didn't ask anyone?
No, well, I got orders to go somewhere else, and I was the only one, and I have no idea why.
Where did you go?
I ended up in Romulus, Michigan, eventually, and I got involved with the lead plane for bringing a group of B-26s with Norwegian pilots. They were all Norwegian under the command of a colonel in the Army Air Force who was a West Point. And he was in command of that thing. And then I did another group. I picked that group up in Atlanta, Georgia. And we flew from Atlanta to Miami, Miami to Puerto Rico, Puerto Rico to Trinidad, Trinidad to Georgetown, which was the top of South America, then to Natal, to Ascension Island, to Marrakesh, and to England.
Refueling at every place along the
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. We would stay a day or two to at each base, and I can't. It was a full squadron of B-26s, but I really can't remember the number of planes. It was quite a few because I had two assistants who were also leading navigators. But I was in the first plane.
So if you had gone with that other crew, you would have been the navigator?
No, I was the navigator for the command plane,
Mm-hmm.
B-26. They're all B-26.
But what they were training for, to do the hump trip or whatever you call
Oh,
it?
no, this had nothing to do with that.
What would you have been on that other
That was
trip?
just bringing those planes over to England
Uh-huh.
for the war. They were a very hot airplane for bombing.
The B-26 was a bomber?
Yes. Yeah. And the next group I took over, and I can't remember where I picked them up. I think I picked them up in 36th Street Airport in Miami, I think. Those were C-47s, which were important for the paratroopers and so forth. They had a lot of problems with that. They had, the group I took went to England, but another group stayed in Africa for the invasion of Sicily and Italy, and they got shot down by their own people.
Mm.
A lot of paratroopers got destroyed in that operation.
Why? What happened? They just
The Navy, they made mistakes, you
Friendly
know,
fire.
friendly fire.
What I remember is when you were talking about landing in places like Hawaii or places that had pest control and how you were doused with insecticide.
Oh, yeah, DDT.
They sprayed the whole
We
interior of the
we
plane.
couldn't leave the airplane till we got sprayed, but that was everywhere.
and your body got sprayed too?
Yeah, the
I
whole
wonder if that
thing.
affected your
We had to
health.
stay there, you know. What?
I wonder if that affected your health later on.
Well, I think it had a very big effect on my health as far as the altitude we were flying without oxygen. We never had oxygen. We never went over, we would fly some of these missions, I shouldn't use the word missions, at altitudes that normally you should have oxygen.
How high?
Well, the highest that I can recall, I think, was 12 or 14,000 feet. But you do this for hours and hours, it has an effect.
And you don't have very much time to acclimate yourself to that. You're just going from ground to 12,000 feet fast.
Well, it depended on the weather, the type of airplane. We never, there were times when we had to go up to avoid weather, but that was kind of short. But when you're flying for 5 to 10 hours at these altitudes without oxygen, it has an effect. There's no question about it.
Do you have anything else you wanna ask about? I wanna go back to the anti-Semitism question if you,
Well,
no, I wanna ask, do you have any other questions about the war wave?
No, that's good.
I wanna ask you about just other anti-Semitism in your life, how your philosophy on it and how you chose to handle it.
well, I can give you some interesting situations, but Claire and I went to camp in Maine, in the Great Belgrade Lakes, and my father and mother picked us all up to go up to Bar Harbor for a little weekend and something. As camp was shutting down. And we had a very difficult problem of getting a place to stay in Bar Harbor. And that was a big taste of anti-Semitism. They didn't want Jews up there, even to the hotels. And then it was another.
What would they say to you? You go to the hotel and say we
Well,
don't
I
have rooms?
wasn't, I didn't
Huh.
go in to register.
Right.
I just know that we finally found a place we could stay at. Then, my father invested in a hotel on Kennebunkport, very small investment because his banker owned 2 hotels, one in Cape Porpoise and one in Kennebunkport. And I bellhopped, I think, 3 years.
Oh, I had the picture. You just
Yeah,
gave me.
okay. And I can remember sitting there by the elevator and listening to people from Lawrence where they're talking about you have to be Jewish to get into Harvard today, and you have to be, very anti-Semitic. My parents could not stay at that hotel. There was, just could not stay in Kennebunkport.
But you could bell
But
hop there?
yes,
He was an employee.
I was an employee. And they had to go across the river to a place where, I remember her name was Toothaker. She would accept Jews. The only spot in that area that would accept Jews. And then a very famous rabbi from Boston bought a house in Kennebunkport, Wise, I can't remember his name anyways. And he never was able to occupy that house because it was burnt to the ground. So, there was a lot of anti-Semitism that was before the war. It eased after the war because there were so many Jewish people that were in the service, got killed and so forth and so on. But I had a roommate in Kansas City, came from many, in Meritive
Americus, Georgia?
No, Mississippi.
Um,
Never met a Jewish.
Meredith, Mississippi.
Yeah, never met a Jewish, he was shocked that I didn't,
No horns?
yeah, right. So we were very close, but he was, there were no good Jews around. That's how he was brought up.
What about later on in life? Maybe-
Well, there's been a lot of, my father couldn't play golf. He had to go to Haverhill in order to go into a country club, because they wouldn't accept Jews in Andover or Methuen and so forth. And then that particular country club in Haverhill was on an island in the Merrimack River, and it got washed out in the flood of '38. My father finally had to go up to Methuen to play golf, but there was a lot of that.
But what about when you became an adult? Did-
Well, I was,
Did it
I was
continue?
adult, there was just a lot of it.
Did you, as a result of experiencing it, did you want to hide that you were Jewish, or did it make
No.
you more proud to be Jewish?
No, I had an experience in Hanover, Pennsylvania, Hanover Shoe, where the purchasing agent was very forward and said, we don't want to do business with a Jewish company. At the time, I was representing Lawrence Process, owned by the Hogan boys. One of Hogan married Bolton's daughter, who was a real big Nazi and came from Germany. So it was an interesting situation because I wasn't representing, I was representing a good German company, Bolton. And so I just stayed there until I could meet the vice president. And I told the vice president, I don't respect the guy's feelings about Jewish-owned companies or anything, but I respect the fact that he came out and said it to me and told me we don't want to do business with Jewish-owned companies. And I made a very good friend of this vice president, and wherever he went in the shoe industry, I became a supplier. It really worked that way. But it's interesting because, and that was in the, I can tell you that was in 1953. When I had that experience. So there was a lot of that that you felt in that industry, the shoe industry. But a lot of the manufacturers were Jewish
Yeah.
in that industry.
But nothing later on in life, in recent years?
Well, I remember that you had a Supreme Court justice, I think his name was Black. And I remember that he was a member, I think, of the Ku Klux Klan at one time. I'm not really sure of the details. But
Hugo Black?
But the interesting thing is that he gave a speech on the radio and said some of my best friends are Jews, and I always use that expression. Some of my best friends are Jews. But he came out as to be one of the most liberal and so forth. And I remember when I told you about the hotel where I was sitting there and all these people from Lawrence, and somebody said, well, that's Dave Oppenheim's son, who was the bellhop. Dave Oppenheim was called the White Jew. Interesting,
Oh,
isn't it? The
maybe
White Jew.
they liked him, he was
Well,
acceptable.
he was a member of the Masons, and he was a 32nd or 33rd degree Masons.
Was that higher than Grandpa Max got?
I think higher, but I'm not sure.
But speaking of your dad, on to the next subject.
Yeah.
There was something, you told me he did something that something about workers or avoiding a strike or something he did to help
Oh
people,
yeah,
something
there
to do
was
with this
a
volunteer work.
strike in 1912 called the bread and butter strike, the textile workers, and of course I wasn't born. And he was on the committee to try to settle the strike, and I have a book on that. And it was a very famous strike because they said that the people who were leading it were communists. You know, the old thing. So my father was on that committee to try to settle the strike. Was it called the Bed of Roses strike? Something like that anyway. And it was just recently mentioned again because one of the historians who wrote about this just died. He was from Lowell. And I can't tell you that much more except it was a long strike. They were paying the workers nothing, really.
What, the mill workers?
Yeah, the mill workers, yeah. And they had, there was child labor, all that kind of stuff. And it did not spread out into Lowell or Havel. It stayed in Lawrence.
But what did your dad do? He helped.
I wasn't there, I wasn't
But you
born.
told me something he did.
I said he was on the committee
But
to.
he was credited for really.
Well,
smoothing things over.
they had a priest, and the usual thing, and he was on that
Did
committee.
they avert the strike?
Oh no, they had a long
Took
strike.
place.
Yeah, and I've got a book on it.
I liked it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, on the subject of your dad, tell us, since we all have the history of the Oppenheim plates, the calendar plates.
Mhm.
So just remind us again what they're for. What did your dad do? He gave them every year at Christmas time
Yeah.
to his charge customers, or what was it from the store?
Well, I don't know. To the customers, I just don't know. He would have them made up, and he'd do it for several years.
And he gave them to him during the holiday season.
Yes. And we don't have it, I
And what was the name of the clothing store he had?
Oppenheim's closing.
David Oppenheim.
No,
Oppenheim's clothing.
Oppenheim's closing.
Okay, one more question about your dad. What do you think was one of your father's best qualities?
Honesty.
Uh-oh, interruption.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, my Aunt Etta had quite a few of those, but
You turn that around for the
Ooh,
camera
that
too.
gets into the-
and that was in the
That's fine.
beginning, 1900, 1901. So.
Yeah, 'cause mine are 1910, I think. And you were saying one of your father's best qualities was?
He was so well liked. He was so honest and above board, and I think that was a very important quality. Incidentally, my father had a relationship with the black community, and he was the only one really, and it consisted of very few families, but they trusted my father.
And would they shop at his store, or he just
Well,
did
yeah,
stuff?
I don't know, all I just whole city of Lawrence. And he had a relationship with the Catholics. The Irish Catholic ran the town. The town of Lawrence was all Catholic because you had the French Catholic, you had the Irish Catholic, and the French who came from Canada to be in the mills. And it was the Irish who always ran it. My family, the Tepper family, had real estate in Lawrence. And on the second floor of one of the houses, I think it's the one that my mother lived in, was an Irish family. And it was called, and the head of, well, no, one of the sons became called Reverend Murphy. Reverend Murphy became president of Boston College. And by that, because of that, I was scheduled to go to Boston College, okay?
Which was a Jesuit school?
Yes.
I didn't know.
And at the interesting part of it is that I would have been one of the, not the first, but one of the first Jews.
And why didn't you go?
So I was brought in by my father for the interview with the president of the college. And when I found out that I had to go to Mass every day, regardless, that was it. I absolutely refused to do that. And the second thing is I don't think we could have afforded it anyways at that time, but who knows?
So how did they afford to send Aunt Claire to Smith?
Well, they afforded to send her to Abbott Academy for a couple of years, and then to Smith, and then 1 year to Radcliffe. Only reason she went to Radcliffe is she wanted to go overseas, and that, I think, was in 1938, to get a little education overseas, and the war was getting involved. It hadn't started, so she picked Radcliffe
But
as her
when you were
year.
ready to be educated, there was a recession, a
Oh,
depression.
there was
The
a
money was
depression.
gone.
So
They
that's
couldn't
what,
afford, I don't know how they, unless my father made a deal at Boston College, I don't know how the hell they would have paid for it. It was a private school, but who knows? I didn't go. But he did get one of the Washaw's kids, one of Thayer's cousin to Boston College. So he had a relationship with the Catholic community there and the Italian community.
What was your favorite characteristic of Nana?
Well, what do you mean?
You told me honesty for your father. What about your mother?
My mother was spoiled. There was a big age difference.
Oh, there was. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, there was probably at least 10, maybe more
I
years.
didn't.
And she married my father when she was 16. So he spoiled the hell out of her. She was the best dressed woman in the town. She sang in the choir for 40 years. And she was frustrated because she could never get beyond that career. I think she wanted a career, they called it light opera in those days, but she never made it.
Oh, that's I didn't.
So she was famous for singing in her choir.
how did your parents meet? How did your father pick up the 16-year-old bride?
I don't know. My father had that store in Lawrence, which was connected with the manufacturer of clothing, the Seagulls, Oppenheim, and this manufacturing, and they opened up this store in Lawrence. My father was it. They had one in Haverhill, one in Lawrence, and one in Lowell. And he ran the Lawrence one, and very successful, I guess, up until the Depression. And I don't know how he met.
Dad, since Hannah's named after Uncle Hans, will you tell us what you loved most about him?
Hans was a remarkable, he was a remarkable person. He was very well educated, and he was a very poor businessman. Really, he had a lot to learn about business.
Well, he was an artist.
But he was an artist, and he designed most of the hosiery. The design, Argyles were very popular, and he was the big shot on that. He also, when he was out of the family business, he was one of them that designed,
The
what's
bodysuits he designed.
Body, was it, no, not body,
No, they were,
Pantyhose?
panty.
yeah, but also the bodysuits, remember?
Yeah,
When I would go to New York,
yeah.
I would model them for the people who'd come in.
So, and I think he was very close to Deborah, because I think that, that Andy had problems at the birth, which we now know why, but at that time we didn't. So that Andy couldn't be, Deborah was the son, the one he could have activity with, the ski and all that, but Andy just couldn't do these things. So, but he was very creative. Wherever he went, but a businessman he never was. And he got screwed by his own family. That's another story.
Tell us more about the person he was. He just always seemed to be such a sweetheart.
Well, he had, as we got older, we got a very close relationship. And because of the family problem that he had with his family, I think that, made it even closer that we had. Well, anyways, that's, what else?
Tell some of the family stories.
No, I'm not
I don't
gonna
wanna
get
get to
involved
that.
with the
There are other
type of things.
things I wanna talk about.
Yeah, they've heard this,
Well, this is for people.
Not on tape, they haven't.
Well, let's
Yeah.
do that at the end, because we have a lot of that. There's some other things that we've never heard Deb talk about.
and so, we had, and I think everybody in my generation, my father's family was based in, Boston, and my mother's family. So every Sunday, we had to drive into Boston, we'd visit, my Uncle Harry in Roxbury, and then my Aunt Tilly in Boston. And that was an unbelievable support system for both families. There was no having people living other places. My mother's family Rose was the physician to the king. And then my oldest uncle, Fred, lived in New York, and the rest of the family lived in Lawrence. And he was a jeweler, but a very famous jeweler. He made the chalice for that big cathedral, Saint, I can't remember the name of that,
St. Patrick's Cathedral?
in New York.
Yeah.
And of course, some of my mother's jewelry.
With
And
the-
I have that revolver is Fred's, where he won the shooting champion in New York, for the state of New York.
Is that the revolver you used to keep in the top drawer?
Yeah, it's still
I
there.
didn't know that.
Yeah.
Huh.
And then my mother consisted of my Uncle Fred, my Aunt Tilly, my Aunt Fanny, my Aunt Ruth, my Uncle Leonard, my Uncle Sam, so, you know.
Where did the California people come in? How did
When
Jan's
Ruby
Yeah.
and Maury eloped, and they ended up having 2 children. The older one, Linda Rose, got frostbite. She was very pale type of person. And she had it the second time, and then they told they can't.
But how is Ruby related to you? I keep forgetting.
Ruby's mother and my mother were sisters.
Okay. All right. My next question is, what do you think was wait, so you were born in 1921,
Yeah.
so you've seen the Cold War end, Israel, the state of Israel. I don't know how many presidents. What do you think is one of the most important events for our country that you've seen in your last 77 years?
Well, I think the fact that we didn't end up with a nuclear war, I think it was very important. Because everybody was developing nuclear weapons, you know, and nobody wanted to be left out.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that's a miracle.
Speaking of miracles, I once asked you if when you would get sick, if you would pray to God to make you well, and you said no, that after you got well you would thank God. I'm just wondering if you can speak to your feelings about God and your relationship to God.
Well, I feel that I feel that I've got to have a relationship with God, and it's got to be within me, and I don't have to be an orthodox or conservative. That if I lead a life basically on the 10 Commandments, that those commandments are parted with me, and that they were given by God. And I know that that's naive in today's world, but that's the way I feel.
Do you pray to God?
Oh, sure.
But do you pray for health, or
No,
you just,
I think that's a big question as far as the Holocaust is concerned. We've been through all this discussion, is God wasn't there, didn't have the power, who knows?
speaking of God, I remember one of my favorite stories told when you had a stroke when I was in high school. What was it?
No, I had
Junior
in
high?
1971, I had a major stroke.
But remember you said that when you were lying in bed, you couldn't move, and the nurse, what was the nurse's comment?
That was a heart attack.
Okay, can you
In 1957.
just tell us that? No, was that it? When you
Yeah.
said such a young, okay, go ahead.
Yeah. I was approximately 35, I think, maybe 36. It was in the summertime. And I was rushed to the hospital. I was at a hearing, not a workman's comp, a hearing on somebody that we fired and the reason and so forth. I came out of there and I collapsed on the street. Now I'm at the Brockton Hospital, and they're giving me a cardiogram, I think.
EKG.
Yeah. And I wasn't moving. My mind was active, and this nurse says, "My God, he's so young. You know, basically, I'm not gonna make it." And I'm saying to myself, "I'll make it." Okay. So, and this is a fascinating story, I think, because now I understand that your hearing is one of the things that survives so-called unconsciousness. Am I right, Helen?
It's
Yeah.
usually the last sense to go and the
Okay.
first to come back.
All right, now it's about, and I had a massive car accident, okay? And I was, then, they didn't have the kind of stuff you have now, but I was in a private room with private nurses and all that kind of stuff. And about 3 weeks later, this woman comes in. Now I'm awake and I'm recovering from this massive. Incidentally, I got a rabbi came in, a Orthodox rabbi came into the hospital to give me the last rites, and I never knew that existed in Judaism. Never knew it. So this woman comes in, and she's doing me it's not
EKG.
it's an EKG. And I said, "So you didn't think I was gonna make it?" To the woman. And she was shocked. She didn't realize that I heard these remarks, okay? And she was very embarrassed that she learned a lesson. Umpteen years later, my sister is living in Boston at, what's the name?
Fondo.
Rondo.
Oh, that's right.
And she's entertaining a couple by the name of Axelrod. And as part of this thing, Axelrod brought, it must have been, I don't remember the exact data. Was it a daughter-in-law, or I don't remember the whole thing, but anyways. So it's a woman, and the Axelrods, my sister and Hans, there's just 5 of them there. And some part of the conversation, this woman was still in the Brockton area, I guess, and part of the conversation was that Claire's maiden name was Oppenheim, and this woman says, "Oh, I had a patient named Oppenheim," and she's telling the story how she had made this remark, she learned a lesson, and Claire says, "It was my brother." Oh, she said, "I don't know whatever happened to him." And Claire said, "That's my brother."
Isn't that
So what a small world, but
Yeah.
this woman was the one that was doing the EKGs.
Yeah, going back, I have one more question about your childhood. Can you tell us one of your fondest memories of an experience in childhood, when you were a child?
Oh, I don't know, I had a lot of good memories about the childhood.
You used to spend your summers in Maine.
Oh, no, that was, you mean, as a youth, yeah.
Young child.
In Old Orchard Beach for a few summers, and then, in Nantasket, I think it was just one, in Hampton Beach, 1 or 2 summers, but I can remember, we had a cottage at Old Orchard's Beach, and the train was right, we were not that far from the train, and the train used to come by, and I remember it was called the Flying Yankee, okay? And I remember taking something, I think like a stick, going across the road, and I was the train, you know. Wow, wow. That was, I remember that.
How old were you then?
Oh,
Little kid,
I was
little kid.
very young. But that was my train, that yardstick or cane or whatever it was, going all across the floor.
That's cute.
And I have pictures of Edith Levitt and myself in a hotel. Nude pictures, I can't believe it. Must
You
have
and
been-
Edith nude? My,
Yeah. Must
you
have
were
been 3.
5?
Oh, maybe 3 or
3 years old.
5, I don't know. But that was the, and then I remember a sign in 19, it must have been in 1932. Leaving the United States, entering Maine. And because I guess Maine was the only one that voted Republican.
That's interesting.
And that was over that river in Portsmouth, a big, big sign, I remember that.
Speaking of Republican, Dad, who's one of your favorite presidents? Who have you admired the most?
Well, you know, I grew up with a lot of Roosevelt and then Truman. And I think Truman was the last of my favorites. Now, I never was registered. I was always an independent. If I had to vote in a primary, then I would sign a card going back, so I voted always as an independent. I've never been registered as a Democrat or a Republican.
Can you tell us briefly your philosophy of business? How to run a business?
Well, I don't think it would apply today.
Well,
But I can only say that when I sold this business, I had stipulations that it had to stay in Brockton. My people, if they wanted contracts, would have contracts. Because my whole philosophy was that the money made by Rexford was not by the machines, it was by the people. And that was very important to me. And I had also a philosophy when Fred Thompson got sick, cancer, and he left work. I paid him up to the day he died. It was important to me that they have that kind of security.
You paid his health insurance too, didn't you?
Who?
You paid his health insurance.
I paid his whole thing, yeah. And, always, and now we have, that woman that she, had cancer,
Oh, the woman who was in charge of the pack shipping?
yeah, she's still there. And, I would compromise the hours she would work, but these people gave their whole thing to Rextrude. You have to give them this kind of reward.
How about your philosophy of on life?
Philosophy on life. I don't have any special philosophy on life. I think that the important thing is having a love and respect. I had my married life with my first wife was, miserable. So, I made it out when I married Helen.
We're gonna get to Helen in a minute. When you got the book of, I don't know, 99 testimonials, what ran through your mind as you were reading? There's a quote that says, "Let it be said, not that life was good to you, but you were good to life." I thought of that when I was putting it together, but I'm wondering what was running through your mind as you were reading all these comments.
Well, I had obviously some effect on some people, and obviously not.
Well, there are 99
And,
positive effects in there.
And we missed quite a few.
Blame it on Helen.
Yeah, I am. But at any rate, I felt good that I had this kind of effect on certain people.
Okay. I only have a few more. Of all the places you've traveled in the world, what was one of your most favorite places?
Alaska was one of them. I think probably the traveling I've done in this country is number one for me. Something just really things. For example, I always, when I made a trip, if an area was known for a particular thing, I had to see why. So in Pennsylvania, I went down a mine in the 60s, I think, all the way down to the bottom. Then you take the little car to where they were actually chipping the coal, which you can get claustrophobia. And I remember going to Battle Creek, Michigan, going through a cereal plant. And incidentally, when I went to the mine, I really bluffed my way in because and that mine finally exploded many years
How'd you
later.
bluff your way? What do you mean?
Well, I said I was an engineer, which was true, and, they wouldn't take visitors down, you had to be something like that. And then I remember going to, in Milwaukee, going through the Pabst brewery, and just being amazed at how they were doing these things. So, that was important for me to see how these things, I've been through a steel mill that outside of Harrisburg that was amazing. And I think that's important to today to see how these things are done, textile mills and so forth and so on. So this country had all kinds of interesting things to see. And people, I think, are in too much of a rush not to appreciate these things.
Okay, just a few more. What's one of your favorite personal belongings?
My wife,
Besides your wife, Pops.
my snot shot, is that what you call it?
What is that?
It's, you know, it's those bills that we had during the Second World War where people would sign in all the different countries I was in.
They would sign your money? The peop-
Yeah. You never saw that? I have it framed now.
I'll see when I get home. Okay, we're down to the wire here. Who is or was your all-time best friend besides Helen?
Dave Wilson.
Why?
Well, he and I get along very, very well. Although, yeah, I think Dave Wilson probably was the closest to me.
Hmm.
And he died very young, actually. And we had quite a good relationship.
How about after that, later in life?
Well, a best friend,
Who are you closest to besides Helen? You know, like Hans or Dean? Or
well, yeah, Dean, can get a word in edgewise. And very close to her.
Clam?
Oh, yeah, sure. But, you know, that's more long distance, and I have a friend in Kansas City, well, in Kansas now, that was my army buddy.
What's his name?
God, now she throws it at me.
Why Kansas?
Yeah. Oh, God. Isn't that awful? And I call him. quite
That's
often.
okay.
We'll never forget good old what's his name.
Yeah.
Okay, I have two final questions. For those of us newly married, what do you think are the keys to success of marriage?
Well, I think, other than the, you know, the word of love and so forth, it's gonna have friendship. Helen said to me when we got married that I have to be your friend, and that's very, very important. There has to be respect and the ability to compromise.
And on that note, tell us about your best friend and the love of your life.
I can believe.
Well, you know, it was, I think that all my illnesses were from stress. And the stress was not in the business aspect, it was in my actual marriage. And, I think that having Helen as a wife, certainly, you know, I'm 76 years old. Who would believe a guy that's had 4 strokes and a massive heart attack would be alive? That says it all. She got me back to a life.
And what are your favorite characteristics of Helen?
She's got a good sense of humor. She's very
Was there anything else you want to add? Anything where, I mean, there's only a million
Besides
other
Helen being
questions.
beautiful.
Well, no, well, any other questions that we
Yeah.
didn't get to? Let me just stop this for a few
Cause
seconds.
Dad, I didn't ask you the questions about the Templars. Oh, I didn't ask the Sacco and Vanzetti. But we've heard, we can say that for another time. You talked about things that I've never heard. Are we filming
My
again?
cousin, they lived up on, in Roxbury at the time.
Cousin who is?
And, Amy, Fanny lived downstairs. Fanny was one of the sisters. And Amy and her mother and father lived upstairs. So again, that relationship when they lived in Roxbury. And Amy, they had the funeral for Sacco and Vanzetti. And it was right through on what we call Washington Street in Roxbury. So Amy took me down because at the foot of her street was this Washington Street.
Mm-hmm.
She lived up in the hill. And there was the funeral for Sacco and Vanzetti. The funeral, I remember little cars and all that. I really didn't appreciate this whole thing because I was too young to know what it was all about.
Mm-hmm.
And that must have been around 1927 or something like that. I'm not really sure of that. So, and Amy, you know Amy. Amy was,
How was she related to you?
Amy's mother was my mother's older sister.
Yeah, okay. And what was her mother's name?
Tilly.
Tilly. Oh, okay.
Tilly. T-I.
Yeah, Amy was quite a character.
Yeah.
And then you seem to love your Aunt Etta. And what did you love best
Well,
about
she
her?
she was the outcast in the family in a way, but my father loved my aunt, and
What did he love about her?
everything about us,
How were they
My
related?
mother was a snob when it came to Aunt Etta. And
But how was the relationship? How was Aunt Etta related to you?
she married my Uncle Leonard.
Oh, okay.
Incident, my Uncle Leonard, the first bike I ever got, he gave me, and it had a wooden frame.
Uh-huh.
And that's amazing to have a wooden frame. The first, I had Lionel electric train.
Yeah.
Because he had this used furniture shop, and when he'd get something in,
I wish we had the Lionel trains.
that's gonna be for my uncle would bring it, so we had that.
So Aunt Etta was married to the man who owned the used. That's right.
Well,
right, yeah.
at that time, he was involved in all this kind of stuff.
And then how
And
did?
the taxi, they owned the taxi.
And they gave Jan her first violin.
That's right, and that's how she got started. Yeah.
And that's how the Catholic part of the family started with Aunt Etta.
Yes.
Because they wouldn't accept her. She said the heck with it, she raised
Well,
the kids
that all
Catholic.
happened before I was born, so this is explanations I've got.
Uh-huh.
I don't really know.
And when she was dying, she wouldn't let you come and see her. 'Cause
That was at, yes, she was at a nursing home in the western part of Greenfield, Mass.
And why wouldn't she let you come and see her?
she just didn't, I don't know.
You had once told me that she wanted you to remember her the way she was.
I think that's what she really was saying.
Was she the closest aunt to you?
Oh, no, I was close to my Aunt Ruth,
Oh yeah, Aunt Ruth was wonderful.
yeah.
We used to go and visit them a lot.
Aunt Ruth. Aunt Tilly was the head of the household type of thing, because she was one of the oldest.
I don't think I ever met her.
No, I don't think you ever, I don't really know whether you were involved with that, Tilly. So, should we shut the thing down right now, because it's still,
I know. Wade, anybody else have any final questions for Dad?
Let's get a picture of him with kids.
Okay, Jesse, do you have any questions for Grandpa? Any questions about when he was a little boy?
Like what his favorite toy was or anything like that?
Yeah, what was,
Scooter. Go sit on his lap, Jeff.
Dean said it was trains
Go sit next to him.
that you always,
oh, yeah, I had a thing about trains.
yeah, that you always played with. Who is that? I'll go over and say hello to Grandpa.
Where's Hannah?
Don't push it.
Where's Hannah?
Peekaboo! Peekaboo!
What are you doing?
Where's Hannah? Where's Hannah?
Jesse, come here.
Hannah. Show Grandpa how you make Hannah laugh.
Wow. You making her laugh that way? Making him laugh. It's not laugh.
You gonna say bye-bye to the camera?
Oh,
Hello! Hello!
Hey Jesse, sit right there and look right at the camera for a second. Let's get a, maybe we'll do a little Jesse morph. Look right. Hold on. You can look right at the camera now. Now make a funny face. Oh, that's not.
he
Well,
doesn't get,
one more time,
he
Jesse.
doesn't get ticklish, do they? He's not ticklish at all.
Now look right at the camera and just smile real big.
Yeah,
Smile real big.
die. Stop.
Look right at the camera.
Be serious. Serious.
Smile.
Look right here. Okay, no toy this time. Okay, now sit straight up. Okay.
You're on camera.
Oh,
Yeah.
look right here, Jesse. Okay. Okay, now. Okay, this time no face. Just give me a big smile.
Can't smile. Look at there he did. That did it.
Okay, that's good. Okay. Take away the orange pillow, please, Jen.
Hey, cutie.
Hey, Hannah. Hey, Hannah.
Pull down her shirt so you can see that it says I'm perfect.
I think Helen should go sit down next to Dad. And she's one of the main characters in this. Characters, right?
Why don't you get the whole family over there? Everybody gets to play. All right. This is the encore where everybody piles on.
And he's got it on still. He's shaking it all over the place.
I know.
Now he's doing it upside down.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, see?
Okay.
The automatic stabilizer working.
It doesn't work so well when you go that far over.
All right.
Well, thanks,
I think
Dad. time is it?
But no later than